Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the MMA Corner Prediction Shows. Tonight, we give you our thoughts, breakdowns, and predictions for UFC on Fox 13, Dos Santos versus Miocic. As always, these episodes are brought to you by BattleBomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. BattleBomb.com. Check them out. I'm your host, Josh Davis, alongside my co-host for the evening, Jason Shelkey. Jason, how you doing, brother?
I am doing awesome, man. I am stoked. Not only because we have a really fun fight card, but we also have two of our own on location in Phoenix right now. So that's also super exciting.
Yes, it is. It's always nice to have half sitting cage time. We will be fans of the usual things. But anyways, a lot to talk about. Very little time to get into it. I'm actually excited for this card. Not only am I excited because of the fights, but I'm also excited for the return of one Nate Diaz. Very much looking forward to this fight card. Very much looking forward to like I said, the return of the Stockton slap. And, you know, Friday night, also going to be an excellent card. The Ultimate Fighter finale. We are not going to get into breakdowns and predictions on that, but again, it will be an excellent card. What we are going to do is roll right into UFC on Fox 13, and opening the card is Gabriel Gonzaga versus Meathead Mitrione. Shelkey, give us your thoughts.
Dude, I love this fight. This is going to be a really fun fight between two heavyweights that both punch really hard. But in this fight, I'm going to have to side with the Meathead because not only does he have the higher, he has shown over his career that he has a higher knockout percentage. He's won like over 80% of his fights by knockout. But Gabriel Gonzaga has also shown in the past that his chin can be very susceptible. And even to smaller lightweight or smaller heavyweights. So if you remember, Randy Couture TKO'd him, and Randy Couture is a natural light heavyweight. So I'm going to go with Meathead on this one, even though I have mad respect for Gonzaga's striking. I think Mitrione's going to score a knockout and pretty quick in this one.
Couple of things. First off, yes, Randy Couture did get the TKO victory over Gabriel Gonzaga, but if you actually truly remember, they were on the feet. Gabriel Gonzaga looked to the ref and said that he couldn't see. The ref asked him if he wanted to quit. Gabriel basically said that he was done fighting. That was after Randy took him down and headbutted him on the way down and completely splattered his nose all over his face. Anyways, your point is still very valid. He has been susceptible to Gonzaga, and I will tell you why. It's not because I think he's a better striker or anything like that. I think that probably as far as striking goes, Mitrione probably has better pure stand-up boxing, so to speak, but I think Gonzaga has more ways to win this fight. I think Gabriel's actually going to use his striking to set up a takedown, get a takedown, and work a submission. I don't think that Gonzaga is going to stand there and trade punches with Mitrione. I think he's smart enough to realize that he's better on the ground, and if he's going to win this fight, it's going to be because of his ground skills. So I certainly look for him to look for his striking to set up the takedowns, and I'm going Gonzaga by submission. But I could be wrong. We'll have to see. Moving right along, Alistair Overeem versus Stefan Struve. Now, guys, if you really want to know what the UFC thinks of Alistair Overeem at this point in his career, look at his opponent. And that's no disrespect to Stefan Struve, because I love Stefan. But Stefan's been out of the game for almost 2 years. He's, had significant heart issues. When he was originally scheduled to come back against Mitrione, he had to pull out minutes before the fight due to heart complications. This should be a gimme fight for Overeem, but again, they're throwing him in against a guy who at this point in his career isn't even a top 20 heavyweight in the world. So it's to me it's funny how the mighty have fallen in this case. With all that being said, I am so excited to see Stefan Struve back. I do wish him the best and hope that he is healed. However, I just think that this is a bad fight for him. Struve has shown that his weak link is his chin, and I think Overeem hits too hard. I look for Overeem to come out with some early big shots, and I look for a quick finish in this fight. I'm going Alistair Overeem. Shelky.
You know, if Stefan Struve wasn't coming off such a long layoff, I would pick him in a heartbeat over Alistair, because I have been so highly unimpressed with Alistair Overeem in the UFC. It just seems like there's part of him that just has either A, lost the passion to fight, or B, has not taken his opponent seriously during his time in the octagon. But I do think, because Struve has been out, 2 years, he's suffered some major medical issues, and it's I consider it's a victory in itself that he's even returning back to the octagon. So, while I would love to see Struve kind of playing on fighting on an even playing field with Overeem, it's not happening. I think Overeem's going to take advantage of that, because we all know ring rust is very, very real, and I think that's going to play heavily into this. And I think Alistair Overeem's going to get his get his third UFC victory.
I have to agree with you. I've also been very impressed with Alistair Overeem in the UFC. Really, with Alistair Overeem throughout his entire career. I will say this, and before I do, let me preface this by saying I have no evidence to back up the remark that I'm about to say other than gut instinct. Alistair Overeem on steroids is a vicious, vicious, vicious individual. Alistair Overeem, not on steroids, is a punching bag. And so if it was any other fighter than Stefan Struve, I'd be picking Overeem to lose. But coming off the layoff that he's had to deal with, never really been a big knockout power guy to begin with. Number two, his chin being the link in the kink in his armor. Yeah, I have to go with Overeem in this one. But I would be tickled pink to see Stefan Struve win this fight, no question about it. All right, moving on to the co-main event, the return of my good buddy, Nate Diaz versus a very tough Rafael Dos Anjos. And I will say this, if Dos Anjos gets this fight or gets this victory, it'll be very hard to say that he does not deserve a title shot. So a lot on the line in this fight. Jason, give us your thoughts.
Well, first thing, to go back to a point you just made, as Tim Kennedy would say, Alistair Overeem on horse meat. So just want to get that out of the way. But I am excited to see Nate Diaz come back in action. I mean, he's always super exciting, whether it be him flipping off people while he's got someone locked up in a submission, or showboating, kind of like his with the same very similar style of his older brother. It's always exciting to see, well, either of the Diaz brothers. In this case, it's the younger of the two, smaller of the two. But Rafael Dos Anjos, he is just looking like a beast. I mean, if I recall correctly, he is the first person to knock out Benson Henderson. And that's an incredible feat, because not many people can claim that they beat Henderson, but by knockout, really impressive. And his only loss in his past 7 fights has come against Khabib. I can't pronounce his last name. Khabib, the guy that everyone's afraid to fight. Yes, Khabib. Thank you. Yeah, the guy everyone's afraid to fight. That's his only loss in his last 7 fights. Otherwise, he's just beat the tar out of everyone that he's fought. He beat the crap out of Benson Henderson, and he got that sort of controversial TKO over Jason High, but that's another story. But I am going to go with Dos Anjos on this one, because Nate Diaz, like you said, he's making his return. It's been 13 months since his last fight. The Diaz brothers are kind of prima donnas. I know they're your boys and everything, but let's face it, man. He won that Justin Bieber money, and he wasn't getting it, but now maybe he's a little bit broken. He's like, well, gotta take what I can get, Sock the 209, motherfucker, what?
Well, That's one way to look at his return. Or the other way to look at his return is, he had a little conversation with Dana White during the filming of Tough, and they came to a resolution that both parties were happy with. Now, with that being said, as much as I love Nate Diaz, this is a bad matchup for him coming back. However, if he gets this victory, he's right back in line for a title shot, which is pretty much what he wants. And especially now that Gil doesn't have the belt, Nate will definitely be gone in for his shot at Pettis. However, first off, let me say this. If this is a fight, if Dos Anjos goes out and tries to fight him like he did Ben Henderson, I think Dos Anjos is gonna lose. I think Nate's striking is way too good for that. However, if Dos Anjos goes out and looks for the takedowns and does his very best to just turn this into a grappling match, which I think he will, I think he wins this fight. I think he's big enough and strong enough to take Nate down and power through Nate's jiu-jitsu. While Nate's jiu-jitsu is world class, I think Dos Anjos is too good with his wrestling. He'll be able to use his size and power through a lot of Nate's submissions and control position on the ground, earning him a victory. That's how I see the fight going. If I'm Dos Anjos in his camp, that's certainly what I've been game planning for. But it's a fight. Who knows what these guys are going to do? Like I said, if they stand and trade, I like any Diaz and those opportunities because that's what they do. However, if it goes into an MMA fight, let's get some takedowns for points and that kind of stuff, that'll frustrate Nate and definitely not go his way. So my heart says Nate Diaz because, I love him to death. But my head says Rafael Dos Anjos, and I tend to follow my head. So I'm going with Rafael in this fight. Moving right along. Guys who don't eat horse meat, Junior Dos Santos versus Stipe Miocic. Shelky, give us your thoughts.
This is a fight I keep on going back and forth on. Because, of course, Junior Dos Santos, he's been there, he's been at the top. And this is Stipe's chance to get to the point where Dos Anjos has already been at. Geez. Yeah, I'm just completely torn on this fight because I think that Miocic's best chance is to get the fight on the ground, which is something that only Cain Velasquez has been able to do inside the UFC. And then, of course, once you get him there, Dos Santos, he really doesn't. His ground game hasn't been impressive, from what we've seen so far. So, while they both have tremendous power, I think that Dos Santos definitely has that. I don't want to say definitely, but I give him a slight edge in the striking department. But I think if Stipe can get him on the ground and grind it out, I think that he can get the victory over Dos Santos. But I think Dos Santos is just overall a better fighter, and I'm going to go with him by second, third round TKO stoppage.
I love this fight. I think they match up very well. First off, I'm going with Dos Santos in this fight, and I'll tell you why. Junior has his career in front of him. If he loses this fight, his career is essentially over. There's not enough time for him to work his way back up to back up the ladder to a title fight. Now, if Cain Velasquez beats Fabricio, Junior's always going to be the gatekeeper because we're not going to see another fight between them. The last two fights he was just absolutely dominated. So the knockout that he does have isn't enough to warrant yet a fourth fight between them. So as long as Cain has the title, he's screwed. But there's a very good chance that Fabricio Verdum wins the fight with Cain, which means Junior Dos Santos is absolutely right back in title contention. So this is a must-win fight for him. He's got nowhere to go if he loses. He absolutely has to win this fight. If Stipe loses this fight, It's okay. It's a fight that he should lose. He's not favored to win. You know, he's stepping up immensely in competition. If he loses it, okay, he fights another couple more fights. He'll be right back up there. With that being said, I agree with you, Shoki. I just think on the feet, boxing, JDS is better. And if Stipe does what you and I think he needs to do and get this fight to the ground, he's not going to be striking with JDS, and that's what he needs to do. If he is going to win this fight, it's not because he takes Junior down and submits him. While on paper, that's what it looks like he should do. He's going to have to find a way to use his length, to use his I'll call it quickness, to use his quickness and agility and dance around JDS and beat him up on the feet, very similar to what he did Roy Nelson. However, like I said earlier, JDS is probably the best boxer in MMA, so that's not going to be an easy task. I look for JDS to get this victory, and unfortunately for Stipe, I think JDS is going to get the knockout. Just my opinion. Shoki, final thoughts.
I mean, we got a really good card. You know, we have 3 great, relevant heavyweight fights on the main card, and then, you know, a lightweight fight that could definitely determine the next contender for Anthony, you know, to face Anthony Pettis. So it's a great main card, and then also we got Joe Riggs coming back after, you know, all that time off from that accidental when he accidentally shot himself, and he's going to be, you know, coming back against Ben Saunders. You know, great story there, regardless of, you know, how he got that wound, but, you know, it's good to see, you know, Riggs back in action, and, you know, be sure to check out everything. It's top to bottom is a totally decent card.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked. Like we said to start the show, obviously we'll be sitting cage side, but friends of the MMA corner on this card. Ben Saunders, who's a good personal friend of mine, love him to death, against Joe Riggs. Like Jason just said, the return. This is a fight I'm looking forward to. It's going to be one hell of a fight. Ed Herman, who's training in Colorado, runs his own gym here, fighting Derek Brunson, another fight that I'm looking forward to. You have Drew Dober versus Jamie Varner. I guarantee you that fight is going to be exciting. So you definitely want to check out this card. And then the main card. All right, those were just prelim fights that I was talking about. The main card. You have Junior Dos Santos, Little Nate Diaz, and Alistair Overeem all on the same card. And no, it's not a pay-per-view. It's free on Fox TV. I mean, we give the UFC a lot of crap about how they steal our money, this, that, and the other, give us crappy pay-per-views. They're giving us a hell of a free card here, and definitely, you know, if you miss, I know it's the end of the year, but if this is the only fight that you see this year, this is the card that you want to see. It's going to be awesome. I look forward to it. I'm stoked. And then again on Friday night, we have the Tough 20 finale. So definitely make sure that you're tuned in for that. For all of your MMA needs, though, we got you covered. We will have live coverage of the weigh-ins for Ultimate Fighter finale. We'll have live coverage of the weigh-ins for UFC on Fox. We will have live coverage of both events. Anything that you need, the MMAcorner.com has you covered. MMAcorner.com, your home for all things MMA. Definitely go there and check it out. We will be back Saturday night immediately following the event, giving you our breakdowns and recaps of all the action. Until then, get everything you need at the MMAcorner.com. For Jay Shoki, I'm Josh Davis. Keep living the MMA Corner lifestyle. You want to do that again now that I got the camera on you? There we go.
Got to get the
Peace
sleep
out,
on.
fellas.